Hello everybody, I am Dr. Dvipika Garg, MDS in Orthodontics, and you are on my YouTube channel. If you can see this video, then you know that we'll be covering the very first part of our cephalometric analysis, where we would be covering one or two analysis. So I hope you have seen the previous video, you have liked the video, you have subscribed to my channel, and maybe you have got notification for this channel if you have turned on the notification section. So in the previous video, we have seen the basics of cephalometry, where we saw about the landmarks, different planes, what are the different hard tissue, soft tissue landmarks, how the landmarks are joined to get a plane, and when planes intersect each other, they lead to the formation of an angle. Okay, so cephalometric I know is one thing which is a little difficult. So first part was all about basics. There would be two more parts to it. Here we will be covering analysis, where first part we'll cover Downs analysis and width appraisal. In the second part of it, we would be covering Steiner's analysis and Tweed's analysis. Okay, so I'm sure all of you must have done analysis in third and final year. Okay, but just doing the analysis is not enough for your NEET MDS examination. You should be very much thorough with the interpretation of it. Okay, if this is the normal range, if we are exceeding the range, what does it imply? If it is below the normal range, what does it imply? So implication of each and analysis is of primary importance, and that is what we would be covering in this. So let us start with the first analysis. The analysis which we are covering today is Downs analysis. So these are the different set of parameters that Downs has given, and this is the minimum value, maximum value, and this is the mean. Okay, meaning from minimum and maximum value, the results which are obtained comes under your mean. Okay, so mean is just a value. There can always be a standard deviation which is mentioned in your fourth section. Suppose for y-axis, if the mean is 61 degrees plus or minus 3.61 degrees, okay, with standard deviation of 3.3, meaning my y-axis can range from 59 degree to 64 degrees. This range is the normal range. If it exceeds beyond 64 degree, it means it is increased, and if it is less than 59 degrees, it means it is reduced. Okay, so Downs analysis and all the analysis which we have, it is not just a particular number which they have given. Okay, like if it is 59, so that is the normal number, or the normal the normal range for that. There's always a normal range. It is not just a particular number. Okay, so keeping that in mind, you people must be knowing that you'll get the normal values in the textbook very well. Okay, so this is not the place where I'll be asking you to mug up the normal values. Yes, you should be aware of it. Okay, but you need not mug up. Plus I will not be covering like facial plane is this much and it ranges from this much. No, that is something which you can easily read from the textbooks. I will be explaining you the interpretation of it. What happens if this angle increases? How does it look? What does it mean? Okay, so let us start with this. The very first angle which was given by Down is the facial angle. Now facial angle is formed when my n-Pagonian line intersects from OP line, my orbital porion line. So my orbital porion line becomes the Frankfurt horizontal plane. So my facial angle is formed when n-Pagonian intersects with facial Frankfurt horizontal plane. That is your orbital. When orbital and porion, these two landmarks are joined together, we get a horizontal line which is known as your Frankfurt horizontal plane. So when FH intersects with n-Pagonian, this angle which you are getting is your facial angle. Okay, so whenever you get a lateral cephalogram and you start tracing it, so what you will do is identify the landmark. So once you have identified the landmark, that is your Nasion, Pagonian, orbital, porion. So you join these points, make the angle. What do you get is a facial angle. So if my facial angle increases, okay, if my facial angle increases, what does it mean? It means my mandible is ahead. If my mandible is ahead, it means it is a case of class 3. Okay, so with increase in facial angle, it is indicative of class 3, whereas reduction of the facial angle is indicative of class 2, meaning my mandible is retrognathic. So if my mandible is prognathic, it is indicative of class 3, and if it is retrognathic, it is indicative of class 2. Next thing which he gave is known as the AB plane angle. So how do you trace the AB plane angle? First, we draw a straight line joining nasion and pogonion. Then we join a line joining A and B. So this angle which you are getting over here is your AB plane angle, right? So obviously there is a particular mean range for AB plane angle, and you should know how to trace the angle. Just by joining A and B is not enough, you have to extend this line backwards. So when my line is extended backward, the angle which we are getting here is your AB plane angle. Okay, the next landmark which he gave is known as angle of convexity. Angle of convexity, how do you get it? By joining NA pogonion. So when you measure NA pogonion, you get angle of convexity. If my angle of convexity is increasing, it is indicative of a convex profile. And if my angle of convexity reduces, it is indicative of a concave profile. And convex profile is seen in class 2 cases because my mandible is retrognathic. Whereas concave profile is seen in class 3 patients. Why? Because my mandible is prognathic. So you should know how with the change in class 2 and class 3, my convexity changes. Okay. The next plane or the next angle which is given by Downs is your mandibular plane angle. If you have seen my previous video, you know that mandibular plane is formed by joining of which two landmarks. Okay, so you should know which landmarks are there because we discussed how it changes in terms of Downs and Steiners. So when my mandibular plane intersects with FH plane, that is my Frankfurt horizontal plane, I get a mandibular plane angle. Okay, if my mandibular plane angle increases, if it is way beyond my normal range, it indicates that the patient is hyperdivergent. Why? Because if this is the angle and if it is increasing, it means my mandible is getting rotated backwards. The patient is becoming hyperdivergent. Okay, if the patient is hyperdivergent, it means my mandibular plane angle has increased, and if my mandibular plane angle is less than the normal value, indicative of hypodivergent facial pattern. Facial patterns can be hypodivergent or hyperdivergent, right? The next question, the next analysis is y-axis. Downs analysis gave the next parameter which is known as y-axis, also known as growth axis. How do you trace y-axis? You draw a straight line, that is your Frankfurt horizontal plane by orbital and porion. Then next what you do is join two landmarks, that is sella and nathion. Draw a straight line. This angle which you get here is known as your growth axis or y-axis. So if my y-axis is beyond my range, okay, if suppose 59 to 64 was the range, if it is more than that, it is indicative of hyperdivergent facial pattern or facial profile. And if it is less, it means the patient is hypodivergent. So obviously if my patient is hyperdivergent, my mandible is behind, my lower anterior facial height is more. Okay, all these are indicative of hyperdivergent facial profile. Next parameter which was given by Downs is cant of occlusal plane. How do you trace the cant of occlusal plane? How do you get the angle? Again, we use orbital porion. FH plane is very commonly used horizontal plane. See, all the analysis are based on this. So what do? Join orbital porion, get your Frankfurt horizontal and trace the occlusal plane. As discussed in the previous video, you all know how to trace an occlusal plane. So when occlusal plane and Frankfurt horizontal plane, they intersect each other, we get cant of occlusal plane. Okay, so cant of occlusal plane, once you have obtained, you know the normal value, and in case my value which I get is more than the range, what does it indicate? It means my occlusal plane is canted. If it is canted, it means it is not normal. It can be canted. If it is canted, it can be upwards, it can be downwards, anteriorly or posteriorly, you have to decide. Okay, if my angle increases, if it means it is anteriorly downwards. Okay, so that is how you have to adjust the Cantor occlusal plane, and based on that you actually decide whether you have to intrude the anteriors, extrude the anteriors, or whatever treatment has to be given to the patient. Okay, so the next parameter given by Downs is your incisal occlusal plane angle. Incisor occlusal plane angle is formed when my lower incisors, you have to draw a straight line or axis of the lower incisor, intersects with the occlusal plane. Occlusal plane is formed by touching the buccal cusp of posteriors and incisal edge of anterior teeth. So that is how you get your occlusal plane. And when these two lines intersect each other, the inside angle which we get is known as your incisor occlusal plane angle. Okay, now imagine if my angle is increasing, it means this is the angle. If my angle is increasing, it means my lower incisors are upright. Okay, and if my angle decreases, it means my lower incisors are proclined. So incisor occlusal plane angle is one angle which helps us in telling about the proclination, retroclination, or basically the angulation of lower incisors. Whether are they upright on the alveolar base, on the mandibular base, are they upright or not? Okay, now next parameter is upper incisor to a Pagonian line. What do? You join a pog. You take a point A, pog, and Pagonian. You draw a straight line. Okay, so this is your a Pagonian line. Now what do? You measure the horizontal distance from this line till the tip of the upper incisor. So this horizontal distance which you get becomes your upper incisor to a Pagonian line. This is how you trace this particular parameter. If my horizontal distance increases, it means my upper incisors are proclined. And if it reduces, it means they are retroclined. Why? Because if they are on this side, it means my proclination is there. Suppose when you join a Pagonian and this is the point where you get upper incisor, it means it is retroclined. Okay, so upper incisor to a Pagonian line helps us to know how much proclination or retroclination is there. The next parameter which is given by Downs is your interincisal angle. How do you trace your interincisal angle? You draw the long axis joining upper incisor and lower incisor. This is the long axis of upper, this is the long axis of lower. When these two lines intersect each other, this inside angle which we get is known as the interincisal angle. That is the angle between the upper and lower incisors. If my angulation reduces, if this is the angle, if my angulation reduces, it means my incisors are proclined. Because obviously if they'll be proclined, my angulation would be less. Imagine if both my upper and lower incisors are retroclined, or lowers are upright over the base and the uppers are retroclined, then my angulation would increase. So when my angulation increases, meaning my interincisal angle increases, meaning my upper and lower incisors are retroclined, and if the angulation decreases, it means they are proclined. Okay, so this is how you should be able to interpret each and every analysis, right? The next parameter given by Downs is incisor mandibular plane angle. How do you trace it? You draw a straight line touching the axis of the lower incisor and mandibular plane angle which was given by Downs. So mandibular plane angle is drawn, the long axis of lower incisor is drawn, and this angle which you get becomes your incisor mandibular plane angle. Obviously, if my incisor mandibular plane angle increases, it means my lower incisors are proclined, and if it reduces, it means they are retroclined. Okay, so increase in incisor mandibular plane angle is representative of proclination, and reduction, it means if they are retroclined. Okay, so this is how you have to interpret each and every parameter. So this was all the parameters which were given by Downs. Okay, so Downs gave dental skeletal parameters, and you should know what are the parameters, how these angulations are formed, and what does they mean. Basically, that is very, very important. Interpretation of each and every parameter. Okay, so that was Downs analysis for you. The next analysis, which is very, very simple, is your width appraisal. Okay, maybe you have done it in your graduation days, or maybe you have not. In case you have not, it is very important that you know it now, because it can be asked in your NEET MDS entrance examinations. Okay, so we'll see what is width appraisal. It is very simple. There is just one fundamental to it. What do? You draw an occlusal plane. So this is the occlusal plane which you have drawn. Take point A and draw a perpendicular to it. Draw perpendicular from point A to the occlusal plane. Similarly, draw a perpendicular from point B to the occlusal plane. Okay, this is the bigger figure of this one. What I have shown, this is the enlarged photograph. So from point A, a perpendicular is drawn. It becomes AO. Then from point B, a perpendicular is dropped to the occlusal plane. That is why it is known as BO. Now this horizontal distance between AO and BO is your width appraisal. If my AO to BO horizontal distance is positive when I measure, and if I get 5 millimeters, that is, if it is positive, it means it is a case of class 2. In case it is negative, when and how can it become negative? If my AO shifts behind and my BO moves ahead, it means my upper incisor is behind my lower incisor, and the value which you'll get will be negative. So that indicates my class 3 pattern. Why? Because in class 3 pattern, my mandible is ahead of maxilla. So obviously my lower incisors would be ahead of upper incisors. My AO will move behind BO. So in such cases, the values obtained will be negative. That is indicative of class 3. So this is what is width appraisal. It helps us to know whether the distance between AO to BO is positive or negative. If it is positive, it means it is a case of class 2. Okay, and if it is negative, it means it is a case of class 3. Simple. Okay, so this is your width appraisal. So yes, we have covered Downs analysis and width appraisal. This will be the first thing which we'll be covering in cephalometric analysis. In the upcoming session, we'll be doing Steiners and Tweeds. So yes, you should be thorough with all the analysis and basically all their interpretations, because nobody is interested in knowing whether you know the normal values, normal range or not. But yes, you should know that if my y-axis is going beyond 59, beyond 64, what is it indicative of? If the patient becomes hyperdivergent, it means his lower anterior facial height has increased, my mandible has rotated clockwise, and my mandibular plane angle has increased. Okay, so these are all these things which you should basically be knowing. In case anything is not clear in this, please feel free to write down your doubts or anything on the comment section which is given below, and I will definitely revert back to you people. Okay, because knowing these analysis is very important, because generally 1 or 2 questions are asked on analysis. So cephalometry is important. If you are a BDS student and if you are watching this video, I am sure it will be a good run through revision session for you people. If you are NEET MDS aspirant, please watch it very thoroughly. And if you are an ortho resident, definitely you must be doing it every day, so you must be clear with it. Okay, so thank you for your patient listening, and all the very best students. I hope you had a great session. Things are very much clear to you. Ask me if there is any doubt, and good luck with your preparations. Thank you.